All right, you're on every panel. All right. That's good. All right, let's maybe everybody go around and give a quick intro. Starting from, let's start with intros.
Hey everyone, still Harrison at Hack.
Hey everybody, Max Torres from Obsidian Systems, also part of the Canton Foundation.
John Goldschmidt from Magenta Labs. Yeah.
All right. Well, we know where the fans are. So excellent. So we have.
This is going to be fun.
We have a great panel today. As you can see, it's going to be full of riot and laughter. Okay, it's my quantum joke, but don't worry, there's going to be many more. All right, let's get started. So the topic is funding the quantum future. So we're going to talk more take direction of the future, what's we think are coming, what the possibilities we see. We have a great panel to explore what will be possible, and I'll start off with Mike. We have. Do you have Mike actually?
Mike had to go to LA.
All right, so we start with John then. John, there we go. We start with you.
I want to go to LA for lunch.
I know, safe, dude.
I actually will the Mike's question I'll open to everybody because I think it's a good question. But what is the biggest gap? Basic research, product engineering, audits, or developer adoption? John, maybe we'll start with you.
Sure, awesome. Okay, so I think the heart of this question is like the expertise that's involved here. I'm not an expert in quantum, and I think the fact is that I think something like 500 PQE experts in the world. And there's a small subset of those that are also blockchain, oriented. So
they're all here in the room.
Yeah, exactly. So we're in like a relatively uncharted territory. So that's obviously a huge gap. And then when it comes even outside of the blockchain world, there are these standards that have been, presented by NIST and even just like deciphering those for a regular organization is difficult to do. And then the question is like, once we get to that point, who at an organization is responsible for that? It falls in the CTO, but that person's obviously doing other things. So there's like a number of things here in like the expertise side that I think create some friction. The good news is obviously we have some time on our hands to figure it out. And the other thing is that there is a lot of research happening. So I think, and then there are these organizations popping up that are allowing some automated kind of identification of where the gaps are within organizations, vulnerabilities for post quantum. So in short, it's like the gaps are around this level of expertise. So that's kind of what I've seen. Again, I'm not an expert, but I think of it from a business side. Like, what are the trade-offs to preparing and like creating this readiness, and where can organizations begin, and are they doing those things?
By the way, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Art Malkov. I guess you might know me from Polymarket. I was a head of marketing there, the first head of marketing. So not much quantum, but I have opinions, okay? And I'm also moderator, so this is the experts. All right, so anybody else want to jump on that question? And
Yeah, sure. I mean, if we're talking about gaps, definitely research is a gap, but I mean, it's just a matter of time. At the end of the day, like the way that things typically happen is it starts from the academic realm, gets funding, then, clearly from a quantum standpoint, like this is a significant change just in technology. So there needs to be funding even at the government level. Therefore, I just think it's a matter of time for the intellectual side to kind of like to have all those researchers, et cetera, and mainly from a funding standpoint, my expectation is that government funding will be a main source of that.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
I think the main, like you rightly called out, we've been talking about like the algorithms from NIST are already like decided upon, and I think like the major hurdle will be cracking open these legacy code bases with encryption schemas that haven't been touched in like 50 years, because and then like inserting a new library into them. I think realistically, because there are kind of 3.5 schemas that are accepted, I don't want to like be dogmatic about like the solutions, but I think there's going to be something in there about like rotating the cryptographic mechanism underneath. And as soon as you put in that box, you're going to be able to start putting in like new cryptography mechanisms and signature schemas. Of course, then we have to worry about like supply chain attacks, but it's just like that initial hurdle of like, all right, let's go in all the banks, let's go in the critical infrastructure, let's like fix all this stuff. And then like any subsequent work we do after that is probably going to be a little bit easier.
Fantastic. Yeah. So it's not going to be fast. It's going to be a while. So guys, you heard it here. All right. Breakthroughs. So now we're going to go. Okay. Actually would be for Mike, but I think question will be for everybody. What is the clearest near-term commercial use case is today? So once again, to the whole field. All right, we don't have to go.
So yeah, I mean, just to clarify, I'm an accountant by trade. So I just wanted to say that part of the table. I've personally been in venture funding. So used to be the head of finance at 0x. We raised $85 million, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, in terms of use cases, I mean, as we're seeing, for example, this wave in AI, like I guess the next stage is how can you perhaps utilize this new level of computing to do the next use cases. And I'm just making this up. Might be simulations, might be whatever it might be. And that's combined with whatever tooling we have right now with AI and such. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just up for your creativity to figure out what that might look like. One thing that I do think is very interesting is clearly breaking systems. That will happen. But then again, as humanity typically does, we will adapt. And again, it's not a direct answer to the question, but I just know that there will be adapting along the way.
All right.
Omri over at Tectonic has this awesome paper that came out, I think, in October about sort of because obviously we don't have like quantum computers today with enough qubits that can like do like real heavy workloads. But he has this awesome paper about like, well, how do you drop the accelerator into like an existing pipeline such that you can accelerate things like en masse in parallel? It's kind of a heady read, but would recommend it if you want to get deep into it. And yeah, I think like just the amount of discovery and then plus one around like combining with AI, like it's absolutely crazy. You already know my opinion about like we're going to enter this golden era of abundance in like 5 years from the last panel, but like firmly believe that.
It's so guys, you heard it here. Run for the hills. No, I'm kidding. It's too early to panic. Save it for later. All right. So let's go to the next question. So we have. Let me pull it up. Yep. All right. What kinds of quantum and PQC projects are fundable right now versus too early? And this is for Harrison, I guess.
Tough one. I think folks who are like really pushing the frontier of like what's possible. I mean, as you know, we've kind of like talked about throughout the day that like these are problems you have to fund today because by the time the problem exists, it's too late to fund the companies in seed. So, folks doing like new forms of or like new like signature schemas, I don't know if like that's super fun. I mean, you're going to be fighting with NIST around getting adoption. And I don't know if anybody wants to eat that amount of glass, but folks who kind of like live up market a little bit and up the stack. Effortless migrations and like wrapping it in like a delightful developer experience. I think like the winners are going to look a lot like CrowdStrike, perhaps. In the form factor, like CrowdStrike's not out there like trying to like productize SSL, but they're like, or like Cloudflare, right? It's sort of like, okay, what is the SaaS that you kind of drop in to like, and so then like if there's like a path to being that company, it's probably worth taking a look at.
Perfect.
I guess in other words, it's like the picks and shovels for the readiness, for like path to readiness right now, because everything else is like too speculative, right?
All right, so buy some shovels, guys. I heard it here. So, we're going to have a lot of takeaways, so let's get ready. How do you, well, they're going to be a fun question for go-to-market. We'll save for later, because that one I can answer partially. How do you fund long timelines without forcing bad product decisions? Mac, this is for you.
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to what I had initially mentioned. Like, you definitely need to have, well, I mean, if you look at the funding that exists today, there is venture funding, but where does venture funding come from? Well, it comes from LPs. Where are those LPs? It's fund of funds, et cetera, et cetera. And then even on top of that is government level funding. So I think that for these longer term type of projects, you need to have some level of funding that comes from taxpayers from somewhere. So that's the only way that I see like a 5 to 10 year project actually, making it through.
All right. So we just passing out a hat here might not work. Okay.
Can I add to that maybe a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah. I sort of think of like crypto as an industry as a way of turning like venture dollars into new cryptography. And maybe that's sort of like, I shouldn't be saying that on stage. But I think like Web3 and blockchain is the perfect like go to market, because like the problem is very tangible. Like what's the gatekeeping mechanism? It's signatures. And if you pop that, then like kind of game over. So I think there's an element of like, we need to have public-private partnerships, but then like kind of parlay into, the government's got deep pockets, man.
Yeah, we know that China, right? They sponsor a lot of their industries for years. And it was amazing, like how much money still goes into just beautification, upgrades, and technology likewise. So I guess America has to do the same thing, or it's going to be a problem.
I mean, it's a public good. It should be, I guess, right? Yeah.
All right, so let's see. We're going quickly through them. Good. I guess what's the right way to fund open source cryptography work without grading perverse incentives? And Harrison, I'd like you to start on that one.
I think we have to look at analogs. So like the Linux Foundation, SSL is kind of like a poor example, because I think there's like one guy who works on it half of his time, but like that is also the backbone of the internet, sort of, mostly. So I don't know.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, this also goes to what you mentioned. There needs to be public goods, some base level of public goods that exist. Ideally, they're funded by multiple entities, so there's not one like centralized source of control. How that's going to look, I can't tell you right now, but that's an ideal scenario, is more of a decentralized ownership of whatever the base public goods are.
Makes sense. So we're not maybe quantum token on Palm.fund? No. Probably already happened. All right. So let's see. What role, well, kind of already answered it, but let's maybe expand the question. What role should government funding play versus private capital? And let's say, what do you think government, like what would be the budget required? If you want to put a number, how much government should do?
An absurd amount.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, sort of touching on the go-to-market and like how do we fund these things. I think like the dual use case of maybe blockchain plus public sector is probably the right way to go about it. What is the market cap of national security interests? That is probably pretty big. And like existential threat. So like,
look at the GDP and like multiply that, and that's how much.
Oh, wow. Like I don't know. Like what is the market cap of like HIPAA and SOC 2 and right? It's a lot. Yeah. 13 digits. I don't know. 12 digits. It's big.
It's a lot. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, it is existential if you don't participate. So given that that's the case, agree with everything that is said here. What number is going to go into the investments? I don't know, but frankly, it is an existential risk for any country, and thus there needs to be that level of participation.
All right. So guys, a lot of money.
A lot of money.
A lot. Just a lot. Obscene amounts. Quantum amount of money. All right. We don't know, yes. I think everyone's going to leave this session with existential crisis, and then my job is done.
Humans always figure it out.
All right. So let's see. John, let's just throw one at you. How should teams price and plan for security costs, audits, migrations, hardware from day one?
So, I mean, I think because there's been this parallel to like Y2K in terms of preparing, and I think this is the thing that was so great about that is there's like obviously a deadline, so it was easy to create a roadmap. Now there are a couple of things at play here. I mean, with the timeline is somewhat uncertain, but there are estimates that I've read a few things about, the cost being for creating greater technical debt or not addressing the issue right now could multiply costs down the road by like 5 or 10x. So it's really a trade-off. If I delay this decision, if I don't start working on it right now, is it going to be worth that opportunity cost? For a small organization, it might be a few $1,000,000. For a bigger one, we're talking about banks, it's maybe hundreds of millions of dollars. And you have to weigh that with the ongoing costs that could be like hardware bloat, could be, storage costs, could be other things that pop up because you have like a more complex infrastructure. So there's not there's not one right answer, but I think there's and there are ongoing costs too to like monitoring the situation. So every kind of organization is different. Smaller ones might delay those costs and let it go. But I think any larger organization has to be thinking about it now, even though there is that uncertainty, because there is an opportunity cost and there's the technical debt that's incurred by not doing it.
All right. So that is bad. I think that's the takeaway here. So invest first. All right. Let's see. Max, if you had a pool of capital deployed this year, not any other year, okay, what would you do with your funds first and why?
Pumped up fun. No, I'm kidding.
Smart.
No, I mean,
Quick money.
with going with the thesis that, a lot of this investment may be government led, definitely having a sense, maybe starting from like the academic communities as to where much of the research is going. I'd probably want to make some plays in those academic communities to align with those that are receiving huge grants from the government. I think that might be an interesting way to kind of target the right things, and also just addressing the prior question, which is also related. I see business as like ones and zeros in certain situations, and I also see it as a matter of probabilities. And so if you look at a decision tree, I mean, at the end of the day, like, you might get into a situation, and if you don't adapt, then guess what? You might fall back, or you might not exist anymore. So that's just going to happen. And so just in terms of, once again, making investments, now this goes back to investments is just a numbers game. The more investments that you make in these type of projects, the greater the chance that you're going to get that big win. So that's my investment thesis.
All right. And if you're individual, just buy a bunch of domains, quantum.net. Probably taken.
.fun.
Yeah,
.fun. Quantum.fun. Yeah, that's premium. Excellent. So is quantum fun though? All right. And what milestones, so Harrison, what are milestones actually de-risk a quantum security startup for investor or grant programs?
It's sort of it's like the boring investor playbook of like for dual use. It's like, do you have government grants? And then for on the private sector, it's like, who are you working with? What's the traction like? Like, what foundations are you working with? That sort of thing. Obviously, more is better. And then we kind of like navel gaze a little bit, and we look into a crystal ball, and we're like, okay, well, like, what's the right PE multiple to apply to the valuation? We just kind of make it up, and then we tell you it's too much, and we negotiate down. That's a joke, but not really a joke.
Is it a joke, though? All right. It is. Anyway, we will pass like VC questions. So
no, I think so. To answer like more seriously, I keep hammering on DevX because like I was an engineer for a long time until Cloud Code came up. I was like, what am I doing now? But like, I don't know if anybody's ever tried to like, fine tune a model on a self-hosted hardware. Like, it's sucky, dude. It's sucky. And there's a lot of like, of these like This could be an analogy. It's going to come back. There's a lot of these like undifferentiated like GPU marketplaces where it's like, well, you have to SSH onto the thing and install the libraries and get it going. But then you have companies out there like Modal where it's they just raised like a 1.1 billion because of the developer experience, I would argue, and like less so on the cost. But it's like one command line issuance and then like away you go. So I think there's something in there, you know, like if someone is like seriously thinking about like how do we make this accessible, I mean, like that's the path to like mass adoption, right? So like, yeah.
It sounds, yeah. So it's easier, it's more scalable. Yeah. All right, then we have. Do we actually? We're going to run through all our questions pretty quickly. All right, I'll do one that I guess question that for last but not least, and then we'll do some audience questions. What is the best path to repeatable go-to-market motion? But which I think funnel, and this is John, I guess for you, John, and me. So I'll take it first. As a marketer, it's very hard to say go to market, especially in such an early field. Was like not much tested? It's not clear applications. Like, you know, we're discussing hypothesis what it could be, but reality is, the marketing starts like you can market anything. You can just smoke and mirrors, right? And crypto people that did it a lot. But like what go-to-market do we have right now, like in quantum? I don't actually know, especially repeatable. So anything that will go, kind of like at Polymarket, when we started, there was no other prediction markets really. There was a couple of tiny ones, but for us it was blue ocean. So when we started testing different things, we had to figure out, there was no go-to-market playbook. There was things you throw and test and iterate quickly and then see what sticks. And so for Polymarket, we just happened to be in the right place, right momentum. We grew really rapidly. But it was also easier thing. Quantum is heavy technology, hard to wrap around, hard to adapt. So I think each of those elements adds an extra step. This is actually, not just a little bit complicated, but adds a whole new levels.
I mean, I guess thinking about it here, I have a question about the question. Okay. But the point is that it's like quantum is like a whole category. It's like a technology. I don't think you can say there's like a go-to-market motion. It really depends on what you're talking about. And at the moment, when we're talking about the deep tech and like the actual PQE, it's like that's government funding and how do you like go to market on that? So I think right now it's more a question of like which technologies are most ready for investment, which ones are most ready for commercialization, and then we can figure it out from there. So I think it's just like a tough thing to answer at the moment. We're just depends on which one you're talking about, but it's also new that we'll figure it out as we go, right?
100%. So not marketing, finance. And one of the key things that always comes up in just having to do with your finances is legal and it's regulatory. So I'm sure that it's going to be developed at some point, but as a part of that go-to-market plan, you kind of want to get ahead of creating the right type of regulations for this kind of technology, and it's just going to happen. So being at the forefront of that and navigating that with the regulatory bodies that you work with will be important. And in the past, historically, it's been the U.S., so it might be again.
Very true. So, want to stab at that in the market? No.
No, you guys.
Yeah, so no, it won't be another crypto 2017, 18, where basically everybody will marketing dream. So thankfully here it's a lot better foundation, I think, like technically, and you can't really BS us back in the day. All right, maybe we'll open one or two questions for audience, and then I think we covered actually all the questions. So yes.
So much of the talks today have been talking about focusing on the issues with coming to consensus and doing the migration for existing layer ones, Bitcoin, Ethereum, everybody else, right? Especially given the uncertain timelines. Are we 3 years away? Are we 5 years away? Who knows, right? So my question is what value, if any, would you put on having a pre-existing layer one that was built from the beginning already using post-quantum cryptography and didn't have to deal with the same challenges?
Yeah, I mean, like, personally, I wouldn't want to be fighting the distribution battle against like Ethereum and Bitcoin, especially as we're seeing like the actual institutional adoption that we've been like hoping for and looking for adopt maybe like some of these EVM forks or something. I think it's tough if you're trying to like do post quantum from the beginning and then kind of back into, and by the way, we should put the global financial system on this and get the liquidity and so forth. I see a lot of this from like the AI memory standpoint, which is like you can either fight for distribution against like the heavy players, or you can do like some clever like side channel attack. But and maybe it's sort of controversial, but I feel like, you know, something sort of shifted like right before Christmas or like maybe on 10/10, where it felt like the industry had reached like a level of maturation, which is like, okay, the winners in so many domains have already been decided, and the rest is kind of like implementation details. So it's, in my mind, it's like Circle versus Stripe and like that conglomerate for like who wins the stable rails. So I think like whoever can get in there and like make them post quantum safe is probably going to have more success than coming in from the outset and like trying to beat them both, if that makes sense. Yeah.
We have a lot of layer ones to layer twos, and unfortunately, you know, it goes back to marketing. It's now you marketing into extreme competition, right? So even Solana's kind of struggling, and they're by far the largest competitor to Ethereum, and everybody after it is, you know, really struggling. Like, so even if they're quantum, it becomes more of a marketing term, right? Like, we're quantum resistant, but is it actually better to have more users? All that stuff is usually
It's security versus adoption.
yeah.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, you know, it's like, it's always sort of been like the adoption's going to, like, solutions can be good enough and get the adoption and then win out. Like MCP is not perfect, right? If we look across the aisle at AI, but it's good enough, and then it's got like enough adoption tailwinds behind it that it's probably going to become like the de facto standard, and same with like Claudebot and stuff. But also, you've been at it for a while, right? You're
Yeah.
Yeah.
Years.
Yeah.
I think we find ourselves in that exact position.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, you've got builders want to build on you, but you know, you can't compete with $1 billion marketing budget.
Yeah.
So, you know, Algorand going around saying we're post-quantum. It's like, we're not. But it doesn't matter. We can screen it all we want.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, their branding is post quantum for sure. All right, one more question. Anybody in the audience? This is your chance. This is
Maybe somebody from Algorand wants to ask.
Algorand. Anybody want to comment on your quantum technology? No. All right. I guess we'll. Anybody? All right. Let's finish with a future take. How do you see the space in 5 years? Just like random stab in the. How does quantum either affects it, or development-wise, or just.
I think it's like SSL, you know, it's like kind of invisible. It's not sexy, but like it's there. And like SSL is not a product. Like, we don't pay for it, right? So like, I'm not sure what that means for, I don't know, like for my bags personally. I would appreciate if it was skewed more towards like Cloudflare and CrowdStrike rather than like open source libraries. But like, I have no control over this, right? But I think like the end state, it's invisible, and like consumers don't notice. But we just kind of like wake up one day and it's like, oh yeah, how about that?
How do you see it? Does everybody agree?
Yeah, generally agree. I mean, at the end of the day, some of the fears is that, quantum is going to break systems are going to break, people are going to adapt, and this is just the way that things are. I mean, right now, AI is completely changing up how organizations are run, and guess what? The next wave might be that, or it might be something else, and, we'll just find ways to adapt, and things will continue.
Just thinking about it from a market perspective, I think that obviously for Bitcoin, this is a huge overhang. The community being able to organize in order to at least assure investors that there's not going to be a massive situation in a few years. And the question, the thing is that a lot of non-Bitcoin chains are addressing this more quickly. So I wonder if this is the thing that actually allows those chains to decouple, because at the moment, obviously everything follows Bitcoin. So, maybe we see that decoupling because of this quantum situation. That doesn't really answer the technical side, but I've been thinking about this from like a market perspective and what this means for not just bags, but for like where investors put their money, right?
Yeah, so I guess it's more of a subtle. So AI is very in your face and active, whereas the quantum will be more like SSL, behind and quiet and unseen. So I guess that's if big takeaways on trend. That I think it answers it. And I don't believe we have any more questions. No, we don't. All right. So that means we did our job. I think we're our last panel, and thank everybody. Let's thank our panelists. All right. Thank you for coming. And I think people still networking, so please network. Thanks.